So we're still waiting for a couple of people, but in the interest of time, I think we should get started. So welcome everybody for our series of 1 hour maximum talk today with Claude Seywert, CEO of ENCEVO Group, with the title today of Leading the Energy Transition. Before we start, just a couple of administrative points. So we'll have an agenda, so short introduction, then the interview, 35 to 40 minutes with Mr. Seywert, a question and answer session. You can post your questions during the chat on the chat button, which you see at the bottom of your screen, and then we'll have a closing. We ask all of the people to stay on mute for the quality of the session, and just again reconfirm what you have already in your invitation, which is that the meeting will be recorded and it will be available on the ILA website afterwards. This series of maximum 1 hour talk on sustainability is an initiative of ILA Sustainability Strategy for Boards Committee, which I have the pleasure to chair. This is actually the third session. 2 weeks ago, we had Mr. Ludovic Tardinier, Managing Director of Norsk Hydro. And a month ago, we started up with Jacques Lanners, former CEO and chair of the Ceratizit Group, and now independent director in multiple companies. But let's get to the speaker of today. Claude Seywert graduated in physics at the Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule in Zurich. He continued his studies in the US and holds an MSc and a PhD in aeronautics from California Institute of Technology. He started his career as a strategy consultant at McKinsey in Germany and joined the ArcelorMittal Group in 2002, where he held various senior positions, among which the CEO of the group's operations in Florence. He joined Creos Luxembourg in 2012, where he already before had several mandates in several boards of the group. In 2014, he became the CEO of Creos Luxembourg, and deputy CEO of Creos Luxembourg, and a year later became the CEO and member of the executive board of ENCEVO Group. Since 2015, he chairs the executive board of the ENCEVO Group, where he is, among others, in charge of corporate development and strategy, as well as technical services. So let's get started. Claude, your company is most commonly known as Luxembourg's electricity provider, but as far as I can understand, it is much more. Can you briefly describe your company, the group, and its activities?
Yeah, well, I think most people actually do not even know the name ENCEVO, but know our individual components. Indeed, as ENCEVO, we understand ourselves as an energy group, which consists of 3 different pillars and activities. The most known one is the whole ENCEVO activity, which is indeed the supply of electricity, but also of gas to clients, well, here in Luxembourg, residential clients, but also clients in France, Germany, Belgium, so the neighboring countries. While ENCEVO is also a producer of energy, we are developing renewable energies, this in Luxembourg, wind and PV, but also in the Benelux. And in Germany, ENCEVO is also operating and maintaining PV for third parties. So there we are one of the major players. In Germany, it's seldom known, but our biggest market actually is Germany when it comes to volumes of energy. Well, and then we have the second pillar, which is grid operations. That's better known under Creos. I think in Luxembourg, most people know Creos. We are the power grid and the gas grid in Luxembourg, but we also operate the power and gas grids in Saarland and in Rhineland-Palatinate, so just across the border. And then we have a third pillar, which is called ENCEVO Services. It's technical services. It's more about installation. It's about energy efficiency, consultancy, and it's about eco-mobility and all those things, more installation, on-site technical services, where we are active in Luxembourg under, for instance, Polvarnefis or other subsidiaries we have there. So basically, we are a group and we try to cover the whole energy value chain.
Okay, so we are supposed to speak about sustainability. You already spoke about new energies. So what does sustainability mean for your business, and in how much is it part of your purpose, mission statement, values, vision, etc.?
Well, I think I can start with a vision, and everyone who just reads our annual report or goes to our website would say, see our vision, the very first sentence reads, we envision ENCEVO as a leading and sustainable energy player in the greater region. And we also claim that we want to drive the energy transition towards a more sustainable system. So I think in that sentence, sustainability is built into our DNA just by the subject matter, which is our business. Energy, I mean, everyone knows that we need to move from fossil to renewable energy and change the whole system. Well, that's our business. We need to change with it. And therefore, sustainability for us is indeed at the heart of our strategy. I mean, we are really trying to develop renewable energies, to get this up to speed, to make our clients also move to other energy sources, to help them become more efficient. It's always, because we always try about sustainability. I think in energy, the best thing is we reduce our use of energy. It's not necessarily the best for us, but that's sustainability is part of that one. We're working a lot of energy efficiency, helping our clients in that matter. So there, I think, as I said, it's built into our general business strategy, because that's what we do. And then obviously it's also translated in our values or others. I mean, if we look at corporate values, one of our main values is respect, and it also says in particular that we respect obviously all the resources, and that we would like to have a secure energy supply for a world tomorrow, for the future. I mean, we are really, it's part of our DNA, I can say. It's mainly also our license to exist. It's our business.
Question: do you have any plans when, for example, your group would plan to be 100% on renewable energies?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, since we are not, well, we are also producing energy, but not only, we are also buying energy that we distribute to our clients. It's partly also a question of demand. I mean, we took the step quite some years ago that for our final customers in Luxembourg, when it comes to power, we only sell renewable or green power. Now, when it comes to industrial clients, that's a little bit more difficult, because they need huge volumes, which are not always available, but we do work with our clients to try to achieve this. And one of our, I would say, our largest customer last year was looking for full dark green energy supply. It's a German car manufacturer, and we were able to provide that one. So we worked with that one. I mean, that was basically in their sustainability strategy, and I'm very happy to say that we managed to do that. That does not mean that all the energy we supply today is green. I mean, on the other hand, what we try to do is to build up an own production base. I mean, we are investing in PV and in wind, where we also produce energy. That's all on the renewable side. We do not invest anymore. Well, we do not invest in coal or nuclear or these things. We're also lucky as a group that we never had a production base, such a legacy production base. So we start there from a rather clean slate. When the whole energy system will be green, because we are then the whole energy system, I do not know. I mean, we are working towards it. We are really trying also to support and push the implementation of the National Climate and Energy and Climate Plan, which really pushes for renewable energies, which we are trying to do. But I think getting the whole energy system green, because that's only at that point when we can say that we are 100% green, because nevertheless our grids, any electron that goes through, any gas that goes through, we don't necessarily know where it comes from. We need to get the whole energy system decarbonized. I have no idea when this is going to be, and it's going to be pretty much 2050, but we have to start at some point.
Yes.
What we are obviously doing internally is trying to reduce, let's say, our carbon footprint and our impact in general. And we're trying to do sustainable sourcing clearly, but we also try to reduce other things. I mean, our fleet switching to electricity, our buildings, getting them as efficient as possible, doing all our operations in a way that we have as less impact as possible, be that on nature, that we put all our lines underground. When I look at Kreos, try to reduce the size of our stations. And I mean, that's internal stuff that we can try to do to reduce our footprint. But the whole energy system takes a little bit longer.
Okay, so you were saying that sustainability is embedded in your strategy, and so sustainability, we speak about ESG, but also we very often speak about what we call the triple bottom line, which means people, planet, and profit. What does that mean for your people?
Yeah, well, as I said, sustainability is into our DNA, but I can then also say we are at the very beginning of a more integrated approach towards sustainability, because yes, we have a normal strategy and we had all our units more or less doing something for sustainability. We have only started now, let's say last year, to actually have an integrated, also sustainable strategy for the group. I mean, this annual report 2019 was our first time we had an integrated report where we tried to have the whole group going in one direction, actually also fits fixed targets on sustainability action. So there we are at the beginning. But then what does it mean for our people? I mean, it's obviously living our values. We are working a lot on the HR side, trying to do satisfaction survey, trying to see how we can empower our people more, trying to see how we can develop their careers. Now, health and safety is one of the big issues, obviously, in our company. That's the number one topic where we are working a lot. So we subscribe to Vision Zero and all these things. We also launched, and there we still also have quite some way to go. We subscribe to the diversity charter. So inclusion and diversity is a big subject where we try to improve. We launched working groups internally to try to see how we can improve on that one. So I think there's a lot of small actions going on, trying to just be a good employer and make everyone welcome. And then when you talk about people, it's also obviously towards the outside. It's also the way we engage with our clients, the way we want our people to engage with our clients and with all other stakeholders. We worked last year a lot on a supplier code of conduct, because to talk to all suppliers that they also do something in sustainability and for their people. And obviously, well, that comes in the whole UN thing, which is larger, but still, I mean, that's the kind of actions we drive towards our people.
You bring it also to the whole try to bring those values to the whole value chain.
Yeah, okay. That's obviously we can only do small part, but I think if everyone looks at it, then yeah, well, I mean, the suppliers, we look now very carefully who we use as suppliers for everything.
Green energy, is that good or costly for your bottom line with respect to profits?
No, well, with respect to profits, well, as I said, somehow it's our raison d'être. No, I mean, for our bottom line, it doesn't really make a I wouldn't say it makes a difference, because we obviously price it for our customers. The customers then somehow pay for it. As I said before, when we have industrial customers asking for dark green energy, it's more expensive than the other kind. We can try to work around, but it's more expensive, it's more complicated, But it's a way to go, and the price is coming down. Now there's other things when we talk about green energy efficiency. That's a little bit a different game, because indeed that's not necessarily. I mean, we are in the lucky situation that in general energy use increases. So if you become more efficient, you don't lose volume, but that obviously has an impact on our bottom line. But there I have to say, if we don't do it, it has an even bigger impact, because by law somehow, and there's engagements which force us to encourage energy efficiency with our clients. Now, this is kind of weird, but we do it. I mean, we also pushed in that direction, to be honest. So no, I don't see that going green has an impact on our bottom line. Actually, when we look at investments, as I said, in renewable energy, those investments are in general quite okay, and they can have a really decent payback as a company. So I think it also makes absolute business sense to do these things. But you need to keep, and I think that's very important, you need to keep the long view on that one. Because yes, some of these actions and investments do not necessarily pay. I mean, we don't have investments, or when you go green, it's not, or try to do energy efficiency measures, it doesn't pay back in 1 or 2 years. It's really, you need to take the long view, and there your shareholder, or your board needs to support you, which
You mentioned the board, so let's get to that subject. What role does the board play in the development and monitoring of this sustainability strategy? You who are in a situation where, if I understand well, 70% of your shareholders are public shareholders, which is state directly as NCI, BCE, so Caisse d'Épargne, Post, City of Luxembourg. How do you assure the buy-in of all of these shareholders?
Well, I think well, there were two questions. I think the buy-in is in that sense rather simple. I mean, if we go green, and as I said, also one needs to consider that one part of our business, which is the grid business, is basically a public service. So there we also have like more DNA to actually serve the public and make sure that the economy has the energy it needs. So we understand ourselves to help politics, or to help our country develop the energy landscape. I think therefore the buy-in is rather simple. I have to say, however, it's not necessarily the shareholder, well, the board actually that drives it. It's we, and in our understanding of the company, who propose the strategy to the board. I mean, we also talk. Well, some of our shareholders are also stakeholders, or they fix the laws, or they give the directions. So we talk with them there as well. We make us here. We put together plans for the future. I mean, we contributed quite actively to the national climate plan there to see what's feasible, what's not feasible. So we build it up together at some point with the official ministries or so on. And then you get rather quickly the buying, because then we translate that one into our business strategy, and then now also into our sustainable strategy, which is part of that one. And for the board, I mean, we have a strategic review each year, and into this strategic review, we have now also built the sustainability actions that we have there. It's not yet, as I said, we don't have yet a target when we will be carbon neutral, or so that's probably the next step, as we at the beginning. But all the actions we do on sustainability are actually built into our strategic plan, which we review each year on where we are going and whether we are on the right direction. And there, obviously, it's a board that sets the target where we want to be.
Perhaps a more delicate question, if you like, you can avoid it. Okay, is so does your board influence the laws?
No, I don't think so.
I think it's more the reverse. It's more the reverse.
Yeah, it's clearly the reverse, and there I have to say, no, I think our board members are there sometimes extremely correct, because we are not always the first one to be informed about laws that concern us. No, I think it's completely different activities. That's why I made the difference between the board, even though we have public servants on our boards, and our interactions with the ministry or with the regulator or other things. I mean, there's completely, it's different. So the board is really there to steer the company, and they don't steer the politics. So the company needs to react to the laws, obviously. But we are sometimes consulted as a major company and as let's say the most important company when it comes to energy, in particular when it comes to infrastructure in the country, on what's feasible or not when people make laws. Yeah.
Okay. Since 2018, you have a new, more exotic shareholder, okay, China Southern Power and Grid International. How do they buy into this local strategy?
Oh, I would say the easy answer is, well, they are public as well in the end, so they have the same interest. No, I think, well, I mean, as I said before, it doesn't hurt sustainability doesn't necessarily hurt our bottom line. So as long as the bottom line is correct, the shareholder is fine. But but here too, I think the advantage of China Southern Power is that they are actually also a grid operator and somebody with a very long-term view. I mean, they are doing the same thing we are doing in China. Now I say the same thing, but the Chinese are actually, I mean, today the biggest increase in photovoltaics is in China. The biggest increase in electromobility is in China. I mean, they are doing all this. I actually think we can learn from them, and they encourage us to go into that direction as well. I mean, they want to see us prosper, and it's clearly that the energy, if you want to succeed in the energy world, you have to become more sustainable. So I think there the buy-in is okay. As I said, as long as we have a bottom line, which is still what it is today, I think there will not be a problem. And otherwise, they are also, and that's what I said at the beginning, it's very important that you have a board and shareholders who have a long-term view, because obviously, when it comes to bottom line, you could improve the bottom line on the short term, but hurting it on the long term. And that, I mean, we are investing a lot, really a lot. We are investing as a group 200 million per year. So you need to have shareholders who support that and do not necessarily want to get the cash back all the time.
Yeah, sustainability so implies that you have a medium or at least a medium, if not a long-term view. Okay, so.
Now that's the advantage of grid operators and also then of our Chinese, because grid operators, they exist for the past 50 years and they expect to exist in 50 years also.
Yeah. Getting to how you manage the company. So in how much is sustainability built in your KPIs? And if yes, how? For example, do you have a KPI, which an objective every year or every 3 years of how much of your energy will be green? Or
yes and no. I mean, this is a system that's still perfectible. I have to, if I'm honestly, I would say most of our KPIs, at least for the top management, are still linked to financial targets.
Yes.
But then we also have, and it's not really nicely declined. So that's the development we still need to do. As I said, in the sustainability, or in our strategy and also in sustainability plan, there's individual actions. There's actions we want to build up a base of so much PV over the next years. So there's individual accountability for those actions as well. And people have those as individual targets, project targets included, but it's not really as nicely a pyramidal scheme where it drops down to the whole organization, I have to say. That's where we still need to improve. I mean, our financial targets are very much going from top to bottom and everyone then contributes. The sustainability is more now there's an action, you are responsible for that one, and you get also a bonus or whatever on that one, but it's not as coherent or as integrated. That's the next step of the evolution.
So it's a mix of short-term objectives and long-term.
Yeah, well, I mean, the sustainability projects are also short-term, because at some point you have a view. I don't know, if you take the national climate plan, there's a view to build up a 1,000 megawatt of PV over the next years, and we have obviously an aim to have a certain percentage of that one, and then it's each year you need this one, and we measure each year whether we do it or not, and there's somebody responsible for that one, or head of renewable energies.
Okay, the present situation, the present crisis made us all work differently. I think you referred to it already. It showed us some limits of globalization, showed us supply chains can be disrupted from one moment to the other, how rapidly demand can evolve, go up and down. What are, for your group today, the major challenges? And obviously the next question will be the major opportunities.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of challenges. I have to say the crisis by itself did not necessarily change those challenges. Obviously, the crisis poses some challenges by itself, because the energy consumption went way down in the lockdown. But I think that's just, well, I mean, that's a global volume which will probably pick up again. This being said, this pandemic also accelerates probably certain trends. We see now the government is, well, that's an opportunity then, is pushing in the Neustartletzeburg a lot of things for eco-mobility and PV. So there we can be active. That will pose challenges to our infrastructure. That's one of the major challenges we already had before, which we probably need to tackle even faster. I mean, it's a whole decentralization or atomization of the energy system, which makes it, which challenges our infrastructure business to keep it stable, because more renewables is less stable, and all the, let's say, electric vehicles and electrification in general make a different behavior of the grid. I mean, there's a lot of consumption which appears at different places, and just periodically or sporadically we also get more production, so more injection, which is not necessarily controllable. So that's a whole challenge. But we also have a challenge when it comes to our innovators or supplier side, because there we also see different behavior with people starting to use their own energy or doing. I mean, we are seeing, we have now a law which encourages energy communities where some people can share or exchange energies. That completely changes. Well, we need to rethink our business model there. I mean, that's just, it's not, today we are trading on a big trading hub where we buy energy and then bring it to our customers. Now it becomes, they're also much more atomized, and we have to figure out what's the role, basically what's our role in that game. I think so that transition is coming much faster than probably, that's what we see, faster than we anticipated it before. But then there's opportunities. I said electromobility now, Creos built up the charging network here in Luxembourg. It will develop. So, I mean, we also, on our services, I think we built up a lot of wall boxes and stations for companies or for individuals. PV installations is a lot faster, so there we can do. That's why actually we entered into the services business, because there's a lot of infrastructure built up to be done where we want to be present as well, because the value chain is shifting. So our business model, our value chain is getting larger and shifting a little bit around, and we have to adapt. That's not necessarily easy, because we don't really know today what the world of tomorrow is going to look like. I mean, I could give another challenge which is huge, which has to do with gas, because we don't know what the future of gas is, or how fast a phase out or not of gas is going to be, whether we switch to green gases, whether it's possible, whether we switch immediately to hydrogen. Those are obviously challenges we are facing. And it's clear that we need to decarbonize also our gas network. Question is how we will do it and how much gas will be left, green gas, be that hydrogen or other green gas.
But you, as a major provider of these resources, you can influence that a lot, no?
Yes.
So you offer. So if there is no green gas, nobody will use green gas, or is it?
Yes, that's well. As I said, we are not always the producer. So yeah, but yes, we can influence the transition. That's why we, in our vision or in our statement, we say we want to shape the energy transition, because clearly in Luxembourg, and that's why we discuss also with ministries about what can be done or cannot be done. I mean, it's our role to help shape that transition. Now, green gases, the biogas we produce in Luxembourg will never be enough for nearly enough. So that's not going to be enough, and we cannot produce enough biogas here. So then we need to import it. We need to look at what's feasible there, and what's existing in neighboring countries. When it comes to hydrogen, it's a question. I mean, green hydrogen, everyone's talking about, but I always tend to say, let's first do green electricity before we transform green electricity to hydrogen. I mean, it's not very efficient to use. Our electricity is not completely green yet, so transforming something into green hydrogen is not efficient, and we actually lose energy that we could use. But that's my personal opinion there. So yeah, we are looking at this. I mean, we're trying to make a pilot project on hydrogen. We also have to see, I mean, and that's, we have to see how the industry in Luxembourg adopts, because the big users of gas tomorrow will still be some industrial clients. We have to see what gases they need. I mean, it's also a question of, yes, it's a question of what can we deliver, but it's also a question of what is needed. I mean, there's also always an adequacy to find, which has started now. I think sustainability is now in everyone's mindset. I mean, Paris climate targets and so on. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows we have to do something. So yes, people are talking, and we are trying to figure out how to do this tomorrow. I mean, it's a whole new system that we are trying to set up.
It's a transition where you need to keep up with the pace of your clients and vice versa.
Yes. I know sometimes clients are frustrated because we are not fast enough, and
exactly.
Sometimes it's the other way around.
You mentioned the government, so who says that after the crisis, or in this crisis, this is unique opportunity to push the transition perhaps a little bit more. You were referring to your commercial clients. Do you see an increase in demand from private households with respect to green energy in the last 3-4 months?
Not really, but as I said, private households in Luxembourg today basically all have green electricity, because we only sell green electricity. We are working on a project now actually for green gas, so we'll see whether that will pick up or not. What we see, obviously, for our clients, where we see a pickup, or we expect a pickup, and saw already, is installations of PV. I mean, there's rooftop PV. There's demand for this one now. The government will push this more and do some more subsidies, and the demand will increase. Similarly, we have seen already before the lockdown, when there was the last auto festival, there was a pickup in electric vehicles. Yeah. And then afterwards, demand for installing the wall boxes at home also. And we see actually a lot of commercial clients, be that banks or whatever, that come to us to ask for solutions to figure out, for recharging at work. We're also working with some developers and figuring out how to do this in larger residential blocks, because that's actually the most challenging part. Yes, we see there's a lot of activity going on. The other thing we see is a lot of demand indeed for energy efficiency consultancy or so to see what can be done. Now we'll have to see how much will then be done, because that's generally combined with some investments that clients need to do. But I think the interest is there.
In this whole discussion, what interests is most of us or most of our members is always, how does in this constant adjusting of strategy, okay, which you referred to, so constant adjustment, not knowing where we go in 2 years' time, etc. How does the role play between the management and the board function?
Yeah, well, the board has, as I said, we do annual reviews of our strategy, where we then look at the big directions. But we in between we also have quarterly reviews. And we have a strategic committee, which is a subcommittee from the board, with whom we look at different initiatives on how they evolve, on special points where they ask for to be informed if we advance. And for the rest, obviously, I have a rather close exchange, let's say, with the chairman. So then that's up the whole board. So obviously, I have a very close exchange with the chairman, or weekly or bi-weekly exchange. Then we have the strategy committee, which looks more at the strategic questions. I don't know, it's between 4 and 6 times. It's between boards, so 4 and 6 times a year, and then we have 4 to 6 times a board a year. We have the complete board. So there's different levels. Also, when we look at investments, we have a specific investment committee, which is another committee of the board, where we look at whether it's in phase with our with our strategy when we do investments, on whether we can do this. So there are different committees. It's mainly those two that look at how we do the implementation and if we advance. Plus, we have then, because you were looking at management KPIs, as management, we have an exchange, a one-on-one exchange with a specific committee of the board that looks at our targets. Also in between the year, in the middle of the year, or twice or 3 times a year, to look at how do we stand with those individual projects, each one. So that's more the exchange with the board. And we obviously then, it's our duty to keep our board informed on all the developments that are happening. So we give general feedback on what's the legislative, the regulative, or in the general environment, how does it change? And then we say, we see this has an influence on us or not, and this is what we want to do. And then we have an exchange with the boards as well.
So the strategy in adjustment is in fact constant.
Yeah, it's continuous. I mean, as I said, it's once a year we formally write it down. But as soon as there's new developments on the market, we report in the boards what we see, and then we discuss whether we need to do something or not. Whether we have plans.
In this strategy committee, for example, do you bring in people from outside of the board, experts from outside, or is it only board members?
No, it's only board members and the executive committee or senior manager.
And the investment committee the same?
It's the same.
Okay, so it's only a board. You have a relatively large board, yes. Okay.
We have a relatively large board, and there's members then from the different branches of our company, but it's only board members. Because
one of the challenges many of our members have today is that in the boards they don't have necessarily all of the expertise they need. So that's why they have these special committees and open them to bring in people from outside of the board in those committees. So,
yeah. I mean, we have the luxury that on the one hand side, well, with our Chinese shareholder, they are more technical experts, nevertheless. Yes. So since we have the state as our shareholder and our Ministère de Tutelle is the Ministry of Energy, so we have also a public servant from the Ministry of Energy or Economy in our boards, which obviously know the subjects as well.
Okay.
So there we do have some expertise, at least in the boards as well.
Before we get to the question of the audience, last question. What message would you have to give to your corporate clients today?
Yeah, well, I think our corporate clients, as I said, some of the...
Because the audience is mainly sitting in boards of your clients. So that's why I'm asking. I wanted to give you the floor, the opportunity to speak to them.
Yeah, well, some of our corporate clients actually asked us about certain things, and now we need to react, as well as I said before, green energy, because they have their own sustainability plans and want to decarbonize. But I think the general message I would give to board members or to our clients is, well, sustainability is nice, and decarbonization is a way, but I think when you look at these subjects, you need indeed to look beyond, because sustainability, well, in our case, it's very pronounced, but I think for others, it's the same thing. If you want to become sustainable, or if the world is changing to a more sustainable world, it will impact your business model. And that's where the biggest risks for boards or for companies lies, that at some point their business model will just disappear, will have changed so much, and they will not have adapted. So yes, sustainability for me today becomes a license to operate, but it's not enough just to try to be a nice or good corporate citizen. You indeed need to think through what it means for your business model and try to anticipate those developments.
Okay, that's the questions from my side. So we are more or less on time, and so let's open it to the questions from the floor. So we have a first question, which is, I think, an obvious question. I'm sure you were waiting for, which is from Philip, who asks, what percentage of the energy you offer today is nuclear energy? You must have been waiting for this one, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, then I will refer to the regulator's website, who looks at the energy mix in the grids in Luxembourg. It's actually not, well, it's we import everything from Germany. It's not so much, but then there's a lot of coal in it. I couldn't tell you exactly the percentage. I mean, we don't buy. That's what people always ask. We don't buy nuclear or whatever energy. We buy for corporate clients energy, as I said, on a trading hub, and somebody is feeding in, and there's not always a one-to-one relationship. And then the energy that finally arrives in our grid is something completely different, by the way. And what arrives, that's what the regulator is monitoring, where we are somewhere 11% or 15% renewables, but the remaining is coal and nuclear, or from external. So yeah, no, I couldn't tell you. We don't buy specifically nuclear energy, but there's nuclear energy in the energy mix we buy, for sure.
Okay.
Today.
Very interesting question from Elisa, referring to your Chinese shareholder. She asks, what is your strategy of bringing in such a shareholder? Okay, I think I know the answer. That's why I add to that. And what is the shareholder's objective to become shareholder at ENCEVO? So there's two questions.
For the first question, the easy answer is we don't choose our shareholders. I mean, we had a shareholder which was a financial investor, it was a fund, which obviously wanted to sell its participation and maximize its participation, the value, and they found some agent. Now I have to say, we as managers at the time, we told them, and I think we were in agreement with the other shareholders, so the Luxembourgish public shareholders, that we wanted indeed an industrial shareholder, because I think it's important, and that's where I come to your question before, expertise in committees. I think it's important that as management, you also get challenged by sometimes people who know also the technical side or the business side of your business, and therefore we wanted indeed a shareholder which is in the same business and can help us and can challenge us. So in that case, I think the Chinese are fine because we are not competitors. They are far away. Grid operator in China has no connection with grid operator in Europe. Nevertheless, they have they face the same challenges, and we all try to find solutions to the same problems, and therefore we can exchange. Now, why did they invest in Europe? Quite honestly, we've seen some investment from Chinese companies, energy companies in Europe, I'd say 2-3 years ago. I think that was the general philosophy. And then Europe kind of shut down. I also have to say that we don't, Europe didn't really approve that too much. So nowadays we don't see it again. I do not know. When I exchange with them, I think the objective is just as an investment, because we are nevertheless a profitable investment. But B, it's also to get to know. It's the same reason I just mentioned. It's to get to know our markets, because grids work the same, but the way the energy market works in Europe, which is very liberalized, I think is different from what it works in China. And I think they are very eager to learn how this works in Europe. And now Luxembourg is actually quite nice because we are active, as I said at the beginning, in France, in Germany, in Belgium, on different trading hubs. So they can observe how this works. I think they are learning also quite a bit there.
Okay. A question from Michelle on a subject we have not touched at all, which is competition. In how does your sustainability agenda help your competitiveness?
Yeah, competition. So competition is a good question. I would say let's take out the grid business because there's no competition. That's why we are regulated on that side. So then we stay. While services, it obviously helps because that's what we are selling: energy efficiency and installation of all sustainable solutions. So that strategy clearly helps develop the business. As I said, on the supply side, it's a little bit more tricky. Well, we built up PV base to produce. There it helps also growing the business. But when it comes about selling energy, it is truly said more difficult. We observed this now in the past years. As I said, on energy efficiency, we have some obligations to do energy efficiency. So we help our clients to do energy efficiency. This has a cost. I have to say, not all our competitors did that, and therefore we couldn't price in the cost into our final price. Meaning that there we're talking about bottom line. There we actually, because we tried to fulfill our obligations, which we didn't quite achieve, but some others completely missed them. We actually took a little hit. But there again, I think we are such a large player that we have a general responsibility to nevertheless do that. Now, I understand going forward there will be more penalties, and then maybe everyone does the same thing, and then we'll see it in the market. So, and as I said, I don't think sustainability hurts our competitivity because some people are asking for it. When I mentioned before the German car manufacturer that we are delivering in dark green energy, I have to say that we are doing a healthy market. It's a very expensive product, but the client wants it, and we managed to provide it at the margin which is good for us, but which was apparently good enough for the client, and the competition couldn't match it. So, but this is because the specificity of the product was such that everyone has costs to provide that one. There is competition on green products, but everyone is competing on those products. Obviously, you cannot compete with a green product or with a renewable product today. I'm saying today. When you sell today green electricity, it is more expensive than if you sell other electricity. So if the competition comes with gray or whatever brown energy, you are not competitive. But then that's a choice for the client, and therefore I said we also buy other energy on just a trading hub, because at some point you need to react to what the clients want.
Sure. A question from Stephen, cutting back to nuclear. Many people argue that nuclear is more sustainable than coal. To what extent should boards seek to lead the debate on this? What's your view?
That's a tricky question. I think it's a political question. It's about is nuclear sustainable or not. It's definitely you said at the introduction, I studied physics. I also studied nuclear physics. So
that's why I thought you would be the right one.
I have a little penchant for that one, and I think it's not so bad. But this being said, I mean, it's really a political question, and it's a question of risks, and can you manage the risks of nuclear, which is also the waste that comes out of it and how you store it. I think from a climate perspective, nuclear actually is fine when it comes to my personal opinion, and it could help decarbonize. The question is, do we want to take the risks that come with it, and can we manage it? Now, today, and that's a political question or a societal question, where today the general viewpoint is rather, no, it's too risky. We have seen it, Fukushima and others, that we cannot manage it, and therefore we should not try it. Yeah, I don't think, well, as I said, we will not build nuclear plants. We just, for the moment, I think nuclear is out. Will it come back in? I have no idea. Okay. But it's definitely, I mean, it's a political discussion that's being discussed in Europe all the time. And when we talk about green energy, it's a question whether it includes nuclear or not. I mean, the French are usually in favor to include it, and while Luxembourg is clearly against it, but it's a political question.
Perhaps so. We have still 5 minutes left, and I promised to release you at 9 because you have an important meeting at 9. The last question is from Pierre. It's a double question. I think we covered the first part, which is what role ENCEVO Group plays in the energy transition in Luxembourg. But the second one is more interesting. What country could be considered as a benchmark today in moving to decarbonized energy?
Well, so on the first one, I think we can do a lot. I mean, we can build up, as I said, load charging infrastructure. We can build up the PV station. We can do with smart grids, which is a whole other subject where we try to stabilize grids. So there, we as a group can do a lot of things. As I said, we can also help our clients be more sustainable. Also, residential clients install at their places, so wall boxes, PV, batteries, whatever. There we can help, and there we can drive. Obviously, we have only so much capacity. We are not the biggest company, also the biggest in Luxembourg, but not necessarily can do everything. Now, when it comes to countries, it's a difficult subject. I think there is no benchmark today that has got everything right. There's a lot of different things going on. I mean, the Germans were the leader with the Energiewende and building up wind and PV, but they are hitting kind of a dry spell, and so their costs explode. There are other countries, Nordic countries, which went a lot on electric mobility and which have other advantages because they have water which is also renewable, and that can help stabilize the system, which doesn't exist everywhere. There's actually today some of the more desertic countries, or already countries, which are doing also a lot of things when it comes to solar stuff. And as I said, China is doing quite a lot. I mean, they are big polluter, but they are really transforming fast their system. And even in the US, even if they are not Paris and whatever, there's some parts where a lot is being done. So I do not see as a country a big a whole benchmark. There's different also pilot projects or pilots or even larger scale regional things which are being tried, but I don't think there's somebody who has found yet the holy grail or done the transition. And I actually think, and this is when I come to Europe, well, I think the thinking in countries is the wrong thinking when you talk about energy. Now, well, if you think about countries like the US, maybe, or like Russia, because it's huge. In Europe, definitely it does not work, because if we want to change to a sustainable way, we need to work together. I think the Europeans are starting to realize that the sun shines most in the south, and in the north you have some water, and you need both to regulate it. And you have some wind on the coastal region and maybe some other regions. I mean, for Luxembourg, Luxembourg is the extreme example. It's completely ridiculous to think that we can become auto-sufficient, renewable, because if the sun is not shining in Luxembourg, it's nowhere shining in Luxembourg. I mean, south and north, not, and the wind, there's no wind, and we need to interconnect with the others. And even the Germans have the big north-south autobahn, but it's not enough. They still need support from the Nordic countries with the sea. And as I said, the Europeans are starting to realize that we need the North Africans as well with the sun. Okay. So I think if we, on the energy side, if we go towards a sustainable system, we will have a strongly interconnected. It's very atomized, but it will also be very, very interconnected because we will depend a lot more on the weather and climate and other things that need to move energy around. So there is no. For me, there is no benchmark. Also, when it comes, by the way, to the consuming, it depends on what the consumption pattern is. Industry needs a different energy supply than when you have big cities where people live, or if you have other hubs. So there's no one size fits all, and I'm not sure there's a benchmark.
Okay. Thank you. So that was the last question from Natalie, but I think I can rapidly answer that. She refers to the US-China trade war, and she says, with your Chinese investor, what's the risk? Okay, I think I can answer that rapidly by saying, if 70% of your shares are in state-owned hand, the risk is relatively minor for your group. Okay.
Yeah, well, US-China has no impact. I have to say, having Chinese investor and Europe, as I said, sometimes is becoming more cautious lately. It makes it more difficult if we want to invest in other countries. In Luxembourg, people don't care. But for instance, if you want to buy a company in Germany, and since we are in a strategic sector, we, for instance, need to get a specific okay from the Bundeswirtschaftsministerium because we have this Chinese share.
Okay. Thank you, Claude. I think we'll close here. So again, the recording will be available on the ELA website in a couple of days. I just want to perhaps refer to the next sessions of maximum 1 hour talk. With on the 10th of July, we have Carlo Hein, Managing Director of Raymond, who has a big announcement to make in this direction. And on July 24th, we have Robert Dannewald, owner and chairman of Content SA. Thanks again, Claude. Thanks
for having me.
Thanks to the ELA staff. Thanks to all of you participants, and hope to see you in 2 weeks and have a virtual glass of Rambon Cider together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So.